Learn, love, and live your faith. Join Carolina Catholic Media during our 2022 Pledge Drive season, every Tuesday now through June 21, culminating with a 36-hour Sacred Heart Share-a-thon, which will be held Wednesday through Friday, June 22 through 24, the Feast of the Sacred Heart. Your pledge will help us better plan and allocate our resources as we evangelize the truth of Jesus Christ across our 7 media platforms right here in the Carolinas. 100% of every dollar raised goes back into the Carolina Catholic operating and capital expense budget to continue building our electronic media infrastructure and the support staff needed to keep our 7 media platforms functioning at peak efficiency. All of our local programs, now over 800 podcasts available on demand, are provided at no cost by our passionately devoted local program hosts. But there's so much more involved to distribute these on-air, online, and on-demand platforms. Carolina Catholic is a 501c3 nonprofit corporation. Your financial gift is 100% tax deductible. We appreciate your prayerful consideration to support our important work as a media apostolate here in the Carolinas. When you consider the warlike state of our world today and the extraordinary times that we live in, with a cancel culture, unprecedented media bias, mistruths, and disinformation everywhere you turn, it's clear why we are here. We exist to communicate the truth of Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, and the Catholic Church to over 5 million souls in the Charlotte Diocese, helping to bring 100 parishes together as one unified Carolina Catholic community, all for the greater glory of God. To be a part of our Sacred Heart Share-a-thon as a sponsor or as a donor, just email me or scan the QR code that's on your screen now.
Welcome to the Giving Tuesday Hour on the Carolina Catholic Media Network. This is your special weekly opportunity to prayerfully and financially support our mission to educate, inform, inspire, and enrich lives with the truth of Jesus Christ. Operators are standing by now and ready to receive your tax-deductible pledge. Call 1-800-857-2909. That's 1-800-857-2909. Or visit carolinacatholicmedia.org to donate online. Once again, welcome to this special Giving Tuesday hour of programming, and thank you in advance for your generosity. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this very special Giving Tuesday Pledge Drive hour here on the Carolina Catholic Media Network. My name is Bill Snyder, and it's wonderful to be with you as we have been at noon each and every Tuesday for the past, 7 Tuesdays we've been on. And I want to remind everybody that tomorrow we're going to be live on the air for 36 hours consecutively, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. So please tune in to our Share-a-thon that starts tomorrow. It's a big community radio event. But I'm super excited today on this special Giving Tuesday Pledge Hour to be joined by Lisa Thiele, and she is the host of An Accountable Catholic here on the Carolina Catholic Media Network. Lisa, thank you so much for joining me.
Absolutely, Bill. Really good to be here. Thanks for asking me to come back on for your session.
Yeah, absolutely. And so in this first little segment here, before we dive in, let me give that phone number so people can donate, 1-800-857-2909. Again, 1-800-857-2909. That's a number you can call. Right now, operators are standing by to take your tax-deductible donation. But what I'd love to do in this first segment here is just ask you a little bit about how the Accountable Catholic came to be on the Carolina Catholic Media Network.
Well, a fun story. I mean, to me, everything in life, being a Catholic from birth till now, and that's a long time, I'm feeling older by the day. I ran into Pam Cohen and a few others that had been involved with a radio station, and I was new to the area. Bill, I was maybe here 3 months at the time, and had actually just written or started writing, was just finishing a book called An Accountable American. And being Catholic, I really feel that Jesus calls us to be accountable, right? He gives us all the tools we need, and asks us to follow him. And so Pam and I started up a conversation, and one thing led to another, and we were pretty, excited when she was telling me, "Hey, we'd love to get you on the show and just talk about accountability and where being an accountable Catholic comes in." And then all of a sudden, it turned into a radio show, and got to know Dave and others, and so it was pretty exciting to do.
So accountability is such a really great topic, I think, to be talking about as Catholics. You mentioned that. So tell us a little bit more about accountability.
Absolutely. So I grew up an Air Force kid, and my mom and dad, obviously, my mom was actually a Marine nurse, and my dad a lieutenant colonel in the Air Force, and a fighter pilot. And so he did his tours of Vietnam and everything. And I remember talking to him, obviously, as a child and growing up, held to being, very accountable before we knew what that word was. It's really discipline. But accountability is more than discipline. It's really looking out for one another too, and helping the other person to achieve what God wants us to be in life, right? So God gives us all, he blesses us with our, I call them special blessings to do what we're to do in the world when you come into the world, and he has a plan for us. And so to me, accountability is all about really taking all the gifts God's given us and looking out for one another so that we can achieve his goals, and the ultimate goal, obviously to be with him in heaven. And so accountability as a person, even if you say, "Gee, Lisa, I'm not Catholic," but we're to love one another. We're all supposed to be down here on earth. We've got this big earth in front of us, and that we are living in. And to be accountable means you're going to have things that you are going to be responsible for achieving. And in order to do that, you have to have a plan. And I think so many people, unfortunately, that was the whole purpose of the book, unfortunately, didn't have people in their lives that taught them what accountability was. And so they're just moving through life and not really, kind of without a plan. And that's a shame. But I think there's an awful lot of people in our country that knows what accountability is and understands it, but they want to take an easier way out and say, well, that's probably too much hard work to go to church every Sunday, or to be involved in a community, or to tithe, right? To be involved in Catholic radio stations and Catholic communities and church, etc. But ultimately, we're held accountable to God, and that day will come. So what I would say is, hey, have a plan. And that's what I decided. Part of what we're doing is it's, the book, all the proceeds go to nonprofits, to either Catholic charities, or to, we're given to the police and other people as well. But it's to help everybody. I love the saying that, you help rise the tide of all boats, right? And so I think as Catholics, have even more accountability to do so, because we are really supposed to love one another and help our fellow brother and sister. And so we try to do that, and that's why that book is there, and that's why the radio show's here. We've got some great speakers that I was able to interview and come on and give their perspective on accountability and what it means to them. So.
Yeah, and so what we're going to do, folks, is we're going to head to a clip of that right now. We're going to go over and listen to a section of Lisa's show. Again, it's An Accountable Catholic, and you can only hear it right here on the Carolina Catholic Media Network. I will say that one of the top episodes that most people have listened to, it's the number one episode on our YouTube channel, is Lisa's interview with Catholic speaker Jesse Romero. And every time we log in and look at the metrics, Lisa, it's like 12 people have listened to it, in an hour, and we're like, wow, this interview is just so incredibly hot for people. And so we're going to take you to a clip.
Yes, he's a great guy, and he knows what accountability is.
Yes, he does. He's an awesome speaker. He's very passionate. And so, folks, we're going to take you to a clip of that right now. But before we do that, I really need to encourage you to be accountable. And, listening to this radio station, it comes with expenses. It comes with stuff in order to keep it on the air and all the different platforms that we have, right? It's not just the radio. It's the YouTube. It's the Facebook. It's all these streaming platforms that we have. Folks, we need your financial support. Can't keep the Accountable Catholic and Accountable Catholic on the air. Can't do it without your prayerful and financial support. The best way to give your best gift is to give us a call, 1-800-857-2909, 1-800-857-2909 right now, or you can call, or you can go online at carolinacatholicmedia.org, carolinacatholicmedia.org, and of course the mobile app has a donate button as well. So here is that very first clip of An Accountable Catholic with Jesse Romero. We'll be right back after this clip and talk some more with Lisa.
Well, tonight's topic is going to be a hot one, probably hit home, close to home for a lot of us, but it's about pride and accountability. And so having wrote a book myself on accountability and the importance of it, as Catholics, I feel that we are called, as Catholics and Christian leaders, to be more accountable, and pride and accountability to me go hand in hand. So pride obviously is the source of many sins. And so tonight, as we discuss that, if you have some thoughts, I guess, on how pride plays into accountability, I'd love for you to kick us off on your thoughts on that and how we can do better to not be as prideful. To me, we think it's really all about us today, don't we?
That's right. The church teaches, some of the great minds of the church, St. Thomas Aquinas, St. Augustine, and others, they teach that the fall of this angel, a good angel that God created called Lucifer, they teach that it was a sin of pride, that he no longer wanted to worship God. He wanted to be like God. He knows he can't be God, but he wanted to be like him. He wanted to usurp the authority of God. And the great minds of the church say that he fell into the sin of pride. And now, again, pride is a sin that's described in Proverbs chapter 6, verse 16. It's one of the 7 deadly sins: sloth, envy, anger, lust, gluttony, avarice, pride. You'll find most of the spiritual writers, when they talk about the 7 deadly sins, these are the main weapons that Satan uses and demons through ordinary temptation over and over and over again. They're very predictable. Those 7 sins essentially cover all of human behavior, or should I say all of disordered human behavior. And so they don't have to change their game plan. But generally, you'll find the great minds of the church, they'll say that of all the 7 deadly sins, that pride is the chief amongst all of them. Because the great spiritual writers in the church will say that the sin of pride, when you think too much of yourself and God is not in the picture, when you embrace a sin of pride, it's easy to fall into the other 6 deadly sins.
That's right.
And so that's usually known as the chief of all the 7 deadly sins.
Right. And to me, it seems like Satan, that's like chocolate or a cute little puppy, right? I mean, pride's pretty easy to fall into, especially in today's day and age. And I think that's, to me, what's hitting a lot of our younger generation as well, as with all the technology and everything, social media, it's all about what I did, right? What I achieved, and look what I've done in life. And, I get all the credit, and I don't, and then all of a sudden, if you have so much room, to me, thinking it's about yourself, then there's not enough room for it's about God. And I think so many people today forget, at least what I was raised on as a Catholic all my life, is that I am here for God. It's all about living God's word and trying to become, right, eventually a saint, try to make it into heaven by realizing that everything I've achieved in this God's beautiful earth he gave us is all because God God gave me those talents, right? God put me in a certain spot to achieve certain things. I can't do anything without God. So, I mean, I always try to, my husband and I teach our children, look, you better leave room for understanding it's not about you. It's not about what you did. And when something really hurts and we don't get our ways, I think one of my favorite songs is Unanswered Prayers by Garth Brooks, because we think we know, but I always try to teach our children, anybody I mentor, your view is maybe, one little part of it. I mean, God's looking at our entire life in a blink of an eye. I mean, he's got the plan. So you can't, pride's not a good thing to have, right? And it's, to me, you can't be fully accountable as a Catholic, as a Christian, and as a leader with moral leadership, let's say, and be full of pride. It's inconsistent.
Absolutely. I mean, that's why our Lord Jesus Christ, one of the things that he says is, in order to get to heaven, you have to have the faith of a child. Okay. He didn't say you have to have the faith of an adult. He didn't say you have to be the Speaker of the House. He didn't say you have to be a president. He didn't say you have to be a congressperson. He didn't say you have to be a Supreme Court justice. He says you have to have the faith of a child. What is the faith of a child? Look at a child, the docility and the trust that they have, especially before they hit the age of reason. When they see mommy or daddy, they raise their arms up. They feel so secure. They just rest in their mom or dad's chest and arms. That's docility. That's surrender. That's humility, knowing I can't take care of myself. I need you to take care of me, and I trust and surrender everything I am to you. That's what gets you to heaven. But the devil wants you to be inflated with the super ego we call pride. And essentially pride is this. You have, as Catholics, we worship God, who's Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Somebody who's full of himself, full of pride, they worship me, myself, and I, the unholy Trinity, me, myself, and I. And here's something also interesting about, if you want to know what humility is, let's take a look at the angels. What do angels do before God? Matthew 18 tells us angels face God. They have a face-to-face encounter with God, and they behold his majesty, the beatific vision, and they behold his grandeur, because they know that he is everything and we are nothing. And so they behold him in humility and in love. Now, what do demons do? Demons are fallen angels that turn their back on God and now face the world. So when you, as a human person, when you turn your back on God, you're imitating the diabolical. And when you embrace the titillation and short pleasures of this world and turn your back on God, you are following the pattern of the diabolical. When you're in prayer and in faith, and in the sacraments, you're facing God and you're following the pattern of the angels.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to this very special Giving Tuesday Pledge Drive Hour here on the Carolina Catholic Media Network. You just heard a clip of An Accountable Catholic, and it is a local and wonderful radio program here on the Carolina Catholic Media Network. Again, you can only hear this program right here on the Carolina Catholic Media Network, and that means that we need your financial support to keep it going. Right? We cannot keep these amazing local programs. And folks, we have 8 local programs. An Accountable Catholic is one of them, and we can't do it without your financial support. 1-800-857-2909. Again, 1-800-857-2909 is a number you can call. Operators are standing by right now to take your tax-deductible donation. One of the things we're asking for is your best gift. Whatever your best gift is, pray to the Holy Spirit and ask him to just enliven your heart with, what can I give? How can I be accountable? To keep this radio station on the air. We need every single listener to be accountable in some way in order to keep evangelizing on this platform. But Lisa, we just listened to Jesse Romero, and he is just so full of truth. He's just so full of the Holy Spirit in his presentation. He's just on fire. In fact, that's the title of his ministry, right? On Fire Evangelization. But Lisa, talk to us a little bit about truth and how truth plays into the role of accountability in our society.
I love that question, and I appreciate it, because that's, again, it's the very foundation of accountability, is it has to come from truth. And we as Catholics, but more importantly, we as a nation, I mean, we really do know the truth, but it's very hard these days to be strong enough to stand up to it and hold the truth. I always go back to, and I'm not a history teacher or anything. My husband actually is and was a history teacher, now retired from that. But we hold these truths to be self-evident, right, all the way from the beginning. And even before that, obviously, from the very beginning, as Catholics, we know that God holds us to be truthful and truthful in our faith, know the faith, know what the truth is, and understand that there shouldn't be, and there is today in our country. Unfortunately, we're so divided that everyone wants to come up with their own truth. Oh, well, that's, but here's really what this is. No, you can't change what truth is. Okay, there is only one truth. And that's what's important. So accountability is based on the real truth, the real facts. And so one of my favorites, I mean, and if you haven't seen these, for everyone in our audience listening, please go watch, hopefully all the videos and enjoy everything with some of my colleagues as well at the radio station. But one of my favorites is Elon Cyrilovitz. He's the CEO of eGuard Watches. And I, again, got very fortunate. I think God dropped some wonderful people in my lap to do the radio show. And he talks about accountability is about choice, and the choice is about having faith, knowing that as Christians, we know the real truth. We know the truth. We can't sit there and say, oh, but that's okay. Let everyone do whatever they want. It's not really hurting me. It is hurting us. It is hurting all of us. It's hurting our children. You can't do that. You have to stand up, kind of like that David and Goliath. Okay, so stand up for the truth, do the right thing. We know what the truth is. We know who Jesus is, and that's the hardest. That's the hardest thing for me to watch as a mother and a Christian and a Catholic and a parent and someone who has written books on very much accountability and what it takes to be accountable, and that is hold to the truth. Do not waver.
Yeah, so, I really like that. That's beautiful. Holding to the truth is really what Catholic radio does too, right? I mean, this platform and these platforms are meant to broadcast the truth. In fact, that's the tagline of Carolina Catholic Media. It's broadcasting the truth of Jesus Christ to the Carolinas. And so, that's what you're doing, Lisa, is broadcasting the truth and holding people accountable, and I don't even know if holding people accountable, but asking people to be accountable. It's kind of hard to hold their feet to the fire when they're...
You said it, and I don't mean to be mean, but you do have to hold people accountable. A lot of people will say to me, but Lisa, we're not to judge, right? You're not supposed to judge. That's up to God. The whole saying of, obviously, how do you judge when you have a log in your eye? I understand all that, and I get all that. At the same time, okay, God has made incredibly complex human beings. I mean, it's just a miracle, with everything that we're made of, right? And from him. But, what I like to say to that is, yes, but God put elders in the church. God put people with wisdom. God gave you good parents. God gave you friends. He puts you places to hold people accountable. So don't allow someone to say, oh, well, again, I probably shouldn't go there, but I'm going to go there anyway. A boy is a girl's a boy, this person's this person that, whatever it might be, that we know that not to be true. So whatever you know to be true, do the right thing and hold people accountable for that, under the context, if they're claiming they're Catholics and they're claiming they're Christians and they, love God, and you're going to try to teach me something that I know is not true, I cannot, as a Catholic, in my heart, a follower of Jesus, sit there and say, oh, you're right, not a problem. Go ahead and have the abortion. I'm sorry. It's just not what God calls us to do, and I can't do it.
No, exactly. And, that's so beautiful that that you challenge people in that way, with the truth, to be able to say, listen, there is one truth. His name is Jesus Christ, and he even said it. I am the way, the truth, and the life, right? And so,
He didn't say if you felt like that for today. You know what I mean? He didn't add all the different, gee, only if you feel it,
Right, exactly. Only if you feel on the truth. No, he said that. And so the beautiful thing is that we have this platform that challenges, that pushes us to be the best version of ourselves, right? To be accountable, not only to ourselves, but to God. And this.
I have 30 more seconds. I know you got to run, but I want to add one quick thing on this for everyone. I think the thing I love most about the show too is people say, "Oh, well, it's Catholic. You have to be Catholic to listen to it, or at least you have to be a Christian." Here's what I'm saying. Everything on the show, you're going to learn something from as well, whether it's to learn about accountability. It's helping you in life. Okay. We want to help anybody to understand that ideally coming and learning more about Jesus really does help your life. I mean, you will feel a lot more, light in your life, and it's much. So we're, come join us just to learn from these wonderful people: Jesse Romero, Elon Srilovitz, Denton Wilson. There's some great, wonderful speakers and hosts we've had, or people we've hosted on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's go to the clip of Elon talking about this, because it's such a, again, powerful topic, and one that we can reinforce. And folks, if you want to hear the full episode, you can head over to our podcast platform and look for An Accountable Catholic. You'll be able to go right on our website or inside our mobile app. You can hear the full episode. We're just going to play a clip of it for you here right now, but we also want to encourage you to give your best gift to us. Pray about what you can give to keep Carolina Catholic Media Network on the air, online, and on demand. That is 1-800-857-2909 to make your donation. 1-800-857-2909 to make your tax-deductible donation right now. Or you can go online, carolinacatholicmedia.org, and inside that mobile app that I mentioned, you can donate there as well. So we're going to go to that clip, and when we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Lisa.
When we talk about tonight's topic of ignorance is not bliss, I would say that choosing to be ignorant is really not a less stressful route. I think a lot of people say, oh, I just, I hear my news on all the different social media networks or whatever, if I want to listen, and they're not. They seem to be, or pretend to be, happier really being ignorant. So do you have some thoughts on, the desire or need to seek the truth, I guess, Elon?
So I would say that ignorance is temporary bliss, right? Ignorance can make you feel good in the moment, but the end result of denying truth or denying reality will be that reality comes and kicks you in the butt. I mean, it is just what it is. You can only run away from it for so long. And sadly today, there's so much misinformation and censorship. I mean, we saw it with big tech censoring any story that came out that didn't suit their narrative. It's really a scary time. So, and even if you are seeking truth now, they've made it a million times harder to actually get to it. And the problem is so many people are so biased with their view of the world that there's enough kind of confirmation bias out there that you could find articles that will suit any position, even if it's not true at all. So
right,
you'll
support.
just be exposed to...
Yeah, supporting what you thought or wanted to pretend.
Yeah, so you're not seeking truth, you're seeking reassurance, right? And it's easy to find that reassurance nowadays. It's a very dangerous time. And so you should always, in my opinion, be willing to challenge yourself and reevaluate your beliefs and where you're coming from on a constant basis, no matter how right you think you are. And if the information comes back from a non-biased perspective, you look at all sides and you still believe what you believe, then you could feel strongly about it. You could feel like, hey, okay, I'm heading in the direction of truth. But you do have to be willing to challenge yourself.
No, I agree with that. I'll challenge you a little on that, and just to clarify, because I think I know pretty much of where you're coming from, but to be really clear to the listeners, there is really only one truth, though, when it comes to at least being Catholic and Christian. And I think what happens sometimes is there is a lot of wavering out there. So while they'll say, oh, well, I'm just finding myself, and I believe this to be true, that we have to be very cautious of, like you said. 'Cause, yeah.
there are objective truths. I was referring more to like the political spec, like what's going on in politics, what's
Good.
going on with,
I just wanted to
general
clarify.
media.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
In terms of objective truth, I don't think that, again, we spoke about it previously, but there's obviously an attack on objective truth, and that's a problem.
Yeah,
that's a
so
whole other issue.
building. So make sure you build your values. In my opinion, make sure you really build those values on that house of rock, right? Not on sand, or you're never going to know what the real truth is, in my opinion. But you're right. I mean, you're at the objective truths, and then people always trying to have so much coming at them, and whatever they want to believe today or feel good is. I like how you said it. Ignorance is really a temporary bliss. I would say we have failed. Go
sorry,
ahead.
can I just?
Yeah. Yes.
Sorry to jump in, but
No.
I just want to say this. In other words, in terms of your seeking truth, never idolize any human position. What do I mean by that? Like I said, there are objective truths, but if you love a political candidate, I don't care who they are, you can't idolize them to the point where they, again, take a position that is more than human.
That's a wonderful way to put it.
Happening. What?
That's a wonderful way to put it. Keep going. I agree.
Yeah. So I think that's what I was trying to say. I think it's very, very important that you're always willing to readjust and say, hold on a minute. Like, any human being can fault. Any human being can be wrong. And we have to be willing to understand that about ourselves and about the people that we start to kind of idolize, because I think once we get into that area, it does become a little dangerous.
Well, that goes back to a growth mindset. You and I had that kind of off recording, that the growth mindset is better than a permanent one, right? Or you're going to be complacent, and you're going to be, I guess, subjecting yourself really to believing anything at that point.
Yes, just because you're told to.
Right.
You don't want to get to a position where you're just told to believe something and you believe it.
Right. And I guess I was going to say that I think we've really, and this might upset some people, but I think we have failed as a Catholic and Christian community, as a nation, when it comes to building the argument as to why we should not choose to be so lazy in researching facts. Because so many people I meet when I travel, because I travel a lot from work, are just not aware of history and current events. They'd rather just say, oh, well, that's not what I heard on, XYZ social media website. And then they're spewing that news as real news. But I think we're in steep decline, because that moral fiber of our country is really directly related to, and you and I chat about that, our decline in faith and belief of a greater good and a God, or a power that, is not going to put up with all this nonsense. I mean, that's not what we're really all about. And if we're claiming we're Catholic or Christian, we don't get to believe in all this other, again, I nicely call it noise, but all the rest of this stuff that's coming at us.
Well, I always get confused when I have a conversation with any friend of mine who's Christian, who's trying to fit in, and they're like, well, the whole abortion thing, I have my opinion, and, it's wrong for me, but I understand if I'm like, well, no. It's not your opinion.
That's right.
It's wrong.
Exactly. Right.
Not an opinion.
Right.
It's not an opinion. Either murder is wrong or it's right. Either you believe that God does not like murder or he does like murder. You can't call yourself a Christian and say, well, I kind of think God told us not to murder each other, and not to kill babies, but under certain circumstances, I'm kind of cool with it because, society's changed a lot. Well, which is it? Are you living for society or are you living for God? You can't have both.
Right. Well, then again, others would argue against you that, well, then if you're a gun holder and you're protecting your family, then that's murder too. It's like, we've got to stop being so divisive and argumentative. But I agree with you.
Yeah, I don't think protecting yourself is murder, for one. And I think that, again, a child in the womb has no opportunity to defend itself. So, the abortion thing, in recent years I've become more passionate about. But again, on a functional societal level, the reality that we live in a country that is a republic, democracy, where people are voting and they have a final say, the vote has final say, we do have to obviously in other words, I do believe in a separation of church and state. I do believe that I live in a country that has its laws, but I do believe our country is built on Judeo-Christian beliefs.
Right.
So my appeal to people, let's not stray too far from those beliefs. I'm not trying to steal your votes. I'm not saying you have to believe anything, but I'm saying let's look at the foundation of the country and see the good that is in it, and pray that they find it.
Hey everybody, welcome back here to the special Giving Tuesday Pledge Drive Hour. I want to remind you that we are alive on the air tomorrow for a very special 36-hour share-a-thon that kicks off tomorrow at 6 o'clock a.m. So please tune in then as well to learn more about our local programmings and some of the amazing things that are going on in the local Catholic community. Don't hesitate right now, though, to donate. 1-800-857-2909. 1-800-857-2909 is the number that you can call to donate to us right now, or online at carolinacatholicmedia.org and in the mobile app. But you just heard another wonderful clip of An Accountable Catholic with Lisa Feely, and Lisa is joining me now on this episode as we kind of spotlight her program. And so, Lisa, one of the things that we talked about in the previous segment was the truth and how important the truth is, but the truth moves us into action, right? We just can't sit, on the truth. We have to do something with it. And so maybe you want to talk a little bit about that. And I know you did a wonderful interview that kind of touches on that topic as well.
Well, one of my favorite, and all of us probably, those of us that are Catholic, all went to little CCD classes when we were a little kid, and I'll never, ever forget being taught, this little light of mine, right? I'm going to let it shine, let it shine. So you don't want to hide it under a barrel, right? And that is the truth, is to spotlight it, right? And bring everybody in and attract everyone in the way that we walk as Christians. And especially Catholics to me, because I am Catholic. But exactly, the truth, I had a very fortunate introduction to Lieutenant Colonel Jay Block out of the U.S. Air Force, and he is now even a politician because he felt so strongly that our country was hiding the truth, right? It was confusing a lot of people, especially a lot of young people who have left the church, and parents. And again, when I wrote An Accountable American, I've traveled the country doing book signings and speaking. And I hear from so many parents, and I really feel for you because I too am a parent with two beautiful daughters. And my husband and I are challenged to keep them making sure that everyone's reading, good information and is seeing good information, which I promise you, at least on our radio show and The Accountable Catholic, you're going to get the truth and good information. And Jay and I had a great talk about morality, right? And that truth and how truth interacts with taking action. And in that context of him running for office, it's voting for the right kind of people. And so easy to just say, well, I'm just going to go along with the crowd, or, oh, gee, I don't have time to look into all these, people that are running for very high offices in our country that are really controlling policy and practices and laws, right? And don't care whether they're telling the truth or not. And I'm sorry, I'm going to push back and say, if you are someone who is in action, taking no action, just saying, oh, well, I know the truth, but I'm going to kind of hide it under a barrel because I don't want to hurt people's feelings, or I don't want people getting upset at me, or, I don't want to be called names, or I don't want to, be seen as an outlier. That is not accountability. Okay, that's the opposite of accountability. And what Jay and I discussed was, you've got to understand what your moral values are and moral code. And if you're a Christian or you're a Catholic, we know what Jesus has taught us. We know the truth, and we are to, the truth will set you free. We are to take action from that truth, and we are to vote from a Catholic perspective. And that is to vote for moral leaders. Now, some people will say, and I've heard it all, well, there's no moral choices at all, so we shouldn't vote. No one's perfect. There's no doubt, none of us are perfect. However, what is in those, people's heart, best you can tell by the actions they're taking, right? So if they support abortion, I'll never understand it. I don't understand any people that claim they're Christians and claim they're Catholics and vote for someone who is pro-abortion. That's a perfect example of not walking the truth and not holding people accountable. And so it's very frustrating to see that in our country, but we're very divided, and we have to get to a point of, if you're going to be accountable, then it's very easy to define, and there's only one truth. And if you're going to follow the truth, it's pretty easy to see who the moral leaders are in this country to be supporting, so that we can start having good stuff more good stuff happen to our country than all the bad that is happening right now. So I don't know how else to say it. Again, that's the truth. Where so many of us are just like, we want to turn off TV. So if you're going to turn off the TV, please turn on Carolina Catholic Radio. How's that? And watch our web shows and learn from that, and know that I think, there's so many good resources out there that can help you.
Absolutely. And that is one of the things you just said, turn on Carolina Catholic Media Network, web shows, on the radio, 1270 AM, WCGC. These are platforms, again, that are speaking the truth. And the truth might be uncomfortable to hear. The truth might be like, oh, wait a minute. It's going to challenge you and push you to be the best version of yourself. And not everybody likes to hear that. They want comfort. I remember what Pope Emeritus Benedict said many years ago, right? That we were not made for comfort. We were made for greatness, right? And that's one of these things that is, pushing us to do that, is Carolina Catholic Media Network. And Accountable Catholic, again, can only be heard on the Carolina Catholic Media Network. So in order to keep programs like this that push people to be the best version of themselves on the radio, online, on demand, we need your support. Can't do it without that support. 1-800-857-2909 is a number to call to make your tax-deductible donation right now. 1-800-857-2909 is that number, or online at carolinacatholicmedia.org. So what we're going to do is we're going to head to, I think, the final clip here of the Accountable Catholic, or an Accountable Catholic, I should say, right here. And then we're going to wrap up our conversation with Lisa when we return. Again, make that best gift as you listen to this clip.
Mr. J. Block, thank you so much for joining us, sir.
Lisa, it's great to be back with you again for my second appearance. Well, I was born and raised in Manchester, New Hampshire. I went out to, grew up in a 3-decker apartment building there. I came from a lower middle class neighborhood. Had, unfortunately, drugs impacted my family with my parents pretty heavy, and it impacted me as well. In different ways, where I'm just very anti-drug, but didn't have much money, had to enlist in the reserves, went off to college at North Dakota State. It was cheaper to go to school in the Midwest for me. My parents didn't have money, and I went out there. I worked my way through school with numerous jobs. I ended up also getting a scholarship in my last 2 years that covered most of my stuff for the as an ROTC cadet in the Air Force. Graduated from North Dakota State. Go Bison, wearing it right here.
All right.
Yeah, love my school. So always got to put a plug in for North Dakota State and Fargo. So please apply and go. You'll love it.
I love it. Good school.
And went off to the Air Force for 21 years, basically as a nuclear officer, and ICBM launch officer for Minuteman III, as a maintenance officer on Minuteman III, nuclear policy officer at the Pentagon. I also was the commander and senior American twice on foreign soil in the Netherlands and on the British island in the South Atlantic, Ascension Island. Volunteered for a combat tour in Afghanistan in 2005, 2006. Probably the best part of my career. And the worst part of my career in some ways too was being over there, but organizing a lot of humanitarian missions around the Kabul area. It was just probably the most amazing thing I ever did in my military career was doing that stuff. Served in Germany as a deputy group commander for a nuclear mission over with our NATO partners, and then came back to New Mexico in July of 2015 at Kirtland Air Force Base. My career is basically over. I owed the Air Force a year. I was ready to go do something else, and got into private industry as a nuclear consultant with a science and technology firm, and then decided to continue to serve here in New Mexico as a county commissioner. I decided to stay here. I fell in love with the area. It's beautiful scenery. It's a lot of great culture here. The food is amazing. So come to New Mexico and try the green chili. I'm more of a green guy than a red guy. And the people are just amazing. It's incredible history here that goes back thousands of years. So
Mexico is beautiful. Well,
Yeah.
what an incredible story. And I know earlier, so I'll have you go back on it a little. I mean, you could have easily fallen into a very victim mindset, which to me is not the right mindset to get you, to get going in an incredible life that you had. Why do you think, or what prevented you from not going that direction? When we talk about morality too, I do think when you fall into that victim mindset, you're more subject to, I guess, making some poor decisions too, because you don't know what to believe.
Well, I made a lot of mistakes, Lisa, growing up. I mean, I made a lot of mistakes. But I had my grandparents who were extremely influential in my life. Basically, I lived in the same apartment building as they did, and they were very moral people. My grandfather was Jewish, became a Catholic when he met my grandmother during World War II, and they were both heavily involved in the church. For them, it was their faith and their family, and that was what guided their lives well into their 90s. They were married over 63 years together, and they had, like any married couple, they had issues, but they were just very moral people. I looked up to them. I wanted to be like my grandfather. Even my parents, with the issues with my parents, in my mind, my parents were good people because they really loved me. They wanted me to do well. They wanted me to do better than them. And I'm very close to my parents still. My parents always told me to get a good education and work hard, and things will work out. And my grandparents told me the same thing. And my mother, who was a truck driver, always had this saying. I can't say the word, but she used to always say, "Jay, don't go around thinking your crap doesn't stink." So my mother always told me to just stay humble. Just stay humble with whatever it is you do in life. Give credit where credit's due. So, I had a great career, but I'll tell you what, a lot of airmen helped me make that a great career. And same thing with my career in politics as I get ready to run for governor here in New Mexico. The people of New Mexico have really pushed me and helped me out along the way. It's not me. And when I was a commander in the Air Force, my airmen who were doing the job day to day deserve all the credit. And I keep in touch with a lot of men and women who I commanded, and it's great. I love them. And I guess what I'm trying to tell you is stay humble, stay focused on your goal. Don't get down. I know you're gonna get down, but don't blame anybody. Whatever happens to you, whether it's fair or not fair, life isn't fair. Take what comes at you and just keep pressing ahead. You're gonna come out stronger on the other side, I guarantee you.
Great. And I know, being an Air Force brat myself, my dad being a retired U.S. Air Force lieutenant colonel, so I love that you've got some fantastic core values that the Air Force teaches you. Could you share those with our listeners? Even though we might not all be Air Force, I think that a lot of that goes for being a moral leader in life.
Yeah, so our Air Force core values were integrity, service before self, and excellence in all we do. And I really loved those core values. But, we're all sinners. And, we try, those core values are there to guide us. We strive to meet them. In the nuclear business, you strive for perfection. But human beings are imperfect people. We make mistakes. We can make decisions that are immoral. We can act immorally sometimes still when we move away from God. And I'm not perfect by any means. We're all sinners, and I've sinned. But you try to you have to have these values, your personal values, whether they're the Air Force or your personal values, whatever they are, those values have to guide you. And you're not always going to meet those particular values. But just because you fail here and there, and you will fail, you just have to learn from those failures and move on and keep pressing ahead.
Very good. And I mean, along those lines, we're going to talk a lot here, and we'll have to take a break here shortly. But, you know, when you hear throughout our country, especially you when you're running for governor, which is fantastic, you hear about, oh, our country, you know, we're terrible. We're systemic this, systemic that, like systemic racism. I really don't think systems create themselves. It's the people behind whatever system's happening. I don't think a system itself is racist. I think that we people, like you say, we have failed, we make bad decisions, and now it's up to us to change that, right? We have got to get moral leadership in there. We've got to stop letting, in my mind, our leaders tell us that, oh, well, we can be completely, different people at home in what we believe, but hey, we're going to be a very different leader. I mean, no, if you're a moral leader, you're a moral leader. If you're not, in my mind. So what say you, Jay? How do we get through this?
Listen, this country is a moral country. This country is a great country. This country has made mistakes. Yes. And we've paid for those mistakes with, I'm talking just the Civil War. We lost 600,000 lives. I mean, we went to war to liberate a race 80 years, almost 90 years after we became independent or declared our independence in 1776.
Yes.
No other country can say that. We have passed civil rights legislation. We've gotten rid of segregation. We've gotten rid of Jim Crow. We have passed anti-discrimination. We passed affirmative action. This country gives preferences to those that are minorities that this country believes deserves a hand, not a handout, but a hand up. We've made mistakes as Americans, but Americans are not a racist people. We're not systemically racist. No, I don't even know what percentage systemic is. No one can tell me. I don't know what that means. When I look at, they are using this racism. It's identity politics. It's classic Saul Alinsky leftist propaganda to divide us. And, you see this, they're teaching like race theory now. Listen, I just said it before, we're all made in God's image. Be proud of who you are and where you came from.
Hey everybody, welcome back to this very special Giving Tuesday Pledge Drive Hour here on the Carolina Catholic Media Network. And we're wrapping up this show here with Lisa Feely. She is the host of An Accountable Catholic, and we are spotlighting her program and also asking for your best gift, right? To give your best gift to the Carolina Catholic Media Network. To do so, 1-800-857-2909. 1-800-857-2909 is the number that you can give us a call and make your tax-deductible donation, or you can do it online at carolinacatholicmedianetwork.org, carolinacatholicmedia.org. So, Lisa, I know we were talking a little bit about, how the truth beckons us to action and we act in the last segment, but, right now, how do we measure if we're accountable or not? What are the things... how do we do that?
I love that question. So many people ask me that all throughout my career because I have been an instructor for quite some time on lean techniques. And so I really leverage a lot of what I've learned, being in that environment and being an instructor, but also, again, going back to the days of being an Air Force kid and learning discipline and accountability. And as you know, even the father of quality in our country, Dr. Deming, says, you can't ever improve what you don't measure, right? So metrics are critical, whether you're in lean, whether you're doing everything in life, whether you're a parent, whether you're a student, right? We get grades. So I would say that you absolutely have to have measurements, and I would say you get an accountability partner, right? Whether that's a spouse, a sister or brother, a good friend. And you also talk to your kids about accountability with regards to the measurements you're going to hold them accountable to. And what we know beyond any doubt, and I'm not a research expert. I've done an awful lot in my day in writing a few books, but and everyone's heard it. If you raise that bar, right, whatever bar you set, if you have a goal, you can hit that goal if you take baby steps and have measurements and metrics to get you there. You're going to have a much better chance of surpassing that goal. But if you have a very low bar and you don't want to measure anything and just like, well, whatever goes, I'm waking up one day. I mean, there's no way you're as effective in hitting that goal in life. And the most famous study, anybody can look it up, but I love it. And I got into that discussion on one of the segments with Mr. Denton Wilson, who I like, a good friend of mine too, who's here in our Charlotte community as a big leader of healthcare project management. He has a lot of metrics, and he and I talked about a study done, at Harvard many years ago, where they said you have to write it. Everyone's heard of the study, right, Bill? Where you have to write your goals down, and those that wrote their goals down were 10 times more effective than those that did not write goals. In fact, the majority of those with written goals, by the time they graduated from Harvard, 20 and 30 years later, when they went back to those individuals and their goals, had beyond succeeded, achieving those. But those that had nothing written down, did not do nearly as well. So I like to try to tell people when they talk about, your book can be pretty mean sometimes, Lisa. You're really holding us to, these metrics. And I do that in the book. I do that as an accountable Catholic as well, is there are metrics, right? So you tell me what you're really made of, right? You tell me, my parents taught us that, right? Integrity and character is what you do when no one's looking. Mm-hmm. There's still a standard, right? There's still a standard. So I would say that you absolutely have to have metrics. You have to make sure the metrics are a stretch for you. Not, gee, I'm just getting out of bed today. I think I'll, make sure I hit, we call them, maybe I shouldn't say this on a Catholic radio station, but we call them creasters. We're just going to go to Christmas and we're going to go to Easter. That is not what God called us to do. That's not what Jesus asked us to do. So, have metrics, know those measures are truth, right? They're the right kind of metrics for you to achieve what you want to achieve. And make sure that you have a coach or a friend or a spouse or someone that's going to hold you accountable. If not, then you're not going to be your best, right? And the way I look at life is God gave me very, very blessed to have the one life I have, and I am going to max it out. I am not going to let God down. I'm not going to let my parents down. I'm not going to let my husband down. I'm not going to let my children down. I am going to max that life, being as accountable as I can to do what God asked us to do, to my very best to get to heaven. That's the goal, I think, of any American citizen, Christian, ideally, to come. If you're Catholic, that you have to have goals. You have to strive to ask to do what God's asked to do and beg forgiveness along the way, because none of us are perfect, but at least try and at least have metrics, because if not, you're not going to be held accountable. I mean, no one's going to know what you stand for. And a lot of people do that too. They're fence sitters, and I refuse to sit on a fence. I mean, it is, get off the fence. You know what the truth is, and follow that.
Oh, it's so wonderful and quite honestly refreshing that you've joined us today, Lisa. And so thank you so much for being with us and, sharing all about what it means to be accountable and, really challenge listeners right now to be accountable to themselves. And, if you've been consuming this radio station, if you've been listening, you're listening, driving around, and you're going, oh, man, this is a great radio station. Or, I've stumbled across Facebook, and been watching this stuff. We need your support. We need you to be accountable to what God has given you in whatever means that is in your life. Asking for your best gift.
Bill, I want to jump in really quick too there. A lot of people, I do have a finance background, and I teach and try to help coach people on, gee, where'd my money go? I just don't understand how I'm, not ending up with enough money. And obviously in today's day and age, right, we know a lot of extra money is going toward gas, right, and all these other expenses that we didn't need to be paying necessarily because of the situation. However, what I would tell you is, I'm sorry, and I'm going to say it, that extra candy bar, okay, that extra Starbucks, all the things that we really don't need. They're not helping you be more accountable. They're not helping our hips and waistline, I promise you. And, so you're spending this extra 10 and 15, 20, $30 a month when you could be helping out your Catholic community or your, the radio station like we're asking, so that we can really reach further with that, right? So it's bang for your buck. So all I will do is beg for all of you to think about, are you, whether it's your church giving, are you truly getting the most value for the hard-earned money you're earning, and is it doing God's work for you, or are we leaning on that cup of coffee, bag of M&Ms, the Oreo cookies, everything else that we don't necessarily need, and we wonder how that extra $20, $30, $40 adds up to an extra $500 a year. It goes very fast.
Yeah, and thank you, Lisa, because that is exactly how I wanted to say that. So, folks, last thing I'm going to do is give you the phone number, 1-800-857-2909. Donate your bag of M&Ms to us this month, 1-800-857-2909, or you can make that donation online at carolinacatholicmedia.org. In the mobile app as well. But thank you, Lisa, so much. This has been awesome talking to you. Really do appreciate it.
Thank you so much. God bless, and have a great rest of the summer.
Thank you. Well, folks, until next time, from all of us here at the Carolina Catholic Media Network, I'm Bill Snyder. May God bless you and your families. Thank you again for your generosity during this Giving Tuesday Pledge Drive Hour on the Carolina Catholic Media Network. Once again, you can donate by calling 1-800-857-2909. That's 1-800-857-2909. Or online at carolinacatholicmedia.org. Don't forget to follow, friend, and like us on social media. Just search for Carolina Catholic Media Network. And personally invite at least one person to check out our program.
Catch the spirit. Learn, love, and live your faith. Join Carolina Catholic Media during our 2022 Pledge Drive season, every Tuesday now through June 21, culminating with a 36-hour Sacred Heart Share-a-thon, which will be held Wednesday through Friday, June 22 through 24, the Feast of the Sacred Heart. Your pledge will help us better plan and allocate our resources as we evangelize the truth of Jesus Christ across our 7 media platforms right here in the Carolinas. 100% of every dollar raised goes back into the Carolina Catholic operating and capital expense budget to continue building our electronic media infrastructure and the support staff needed to keep our 7 media platforms functioning at peak efficiency. All of our local programs, now over 800 podcasts available on demand, are provided at no cost by our passionately devoted local program hosts. But there's so much more involved to distribute these on-air, online, and on-demand platforms. Carolina Catholic is a 501c3 nonprofit corporation. Your financial gift is 100% tax deductible. We appreciate your prayerful consideration to support our important work as a media apostolate here in the Carolinas. When you consider the warlike state of our world today and the extraordinary times that we live in, with a cancel culture, unprecedented media bias, mistruths, and disinformation everywhere you turn, it's clear why we are here. We exist to communicate the truth of Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, and the Catholic Church to over 5 million souls in the Charlotte Diocese, helping to bring 100 parishes together as one unified Carolina Catholic community, all for the greater glory of God. To be a part of our Sacred Heart Share-a-thon as a sponsor or as a donor, just email me or scan the QR code that's on your screen now.